In Georgia, Colin Gray is on trial for murder, charges connected to a school shooting. Yet Colin was not even at the school when it happened. He's been accused of purchasing the murder weapon used by his son, Colt, to kill 4 and wound 7 others in the school. Is this an overreach by prosecutors, or should Colin be convicted of murder? Tonight, the latest from the courtroom. In Florida, OnlyFans model Courtney Clenney accused of stabbing her boyfriend Christian Obumseli to death today in court for an important pretrial hearing. She's caught on camera making faces at someone in the gallery. She's going to trial for murder, yet posing in the courtroom. What's going on with Courtney Clenney? Tonight, we take a look. But first, in Tucson, Arizona, another day and still 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie remains missing. Suddenly, everything's starting to get eerily quiet in the investigation over the last few days. Is this a sign of a case going cold? Or is this the quiet before the storm of an arrest and the locating of Nancy? We'll take a look at all the latest evidence as the search for Nancy Guthrie continues. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you aboard. The end of another week, and another week in the search for Nancy Guthrie. Now, a lot of people getting frustrated, but I want to put some perspective in all of this. It's been 3 weeks now, close to 3 weeks. Over the weekend, it'll hit 3 weeks, where this 84-year-old mom and grandma has been missing. Seems like a long time. It is a long time. It's way too long. For her, she's 84 years old. If she's being held captive, 3 weeks is a long, long time. And for the family, for Savannah and Annie, and for Cameron, every day must seem like an eternity, waiting and hoping to hear something about their mom. So what I want to do is put a little perspective on this, because this is a super high-profile case. We know the pressure is on law enforcement, and we know they're doing the work and they're putting the resources in, both locally and with help, a lot of help from the FBI and the feds. So let's put it into context with some other huge stories. And we begin with Luigi Mangione, right? That thing was wrapped up in like 5 days. When I say wrapped up, they identified a suspect and they found him and they arrested him within 5 days. Now, looking at that case and this case, some comparisons back and forth. Mangione, in the streets of New York, cameras everywhere, right? He did a pretty good job, allegedly, right, if it's him, of covering up his face, but there was DNA, and there was that one moment where the mask came down. That's right, he's wearing the COVID mask. The mask came down when he was flirting in the hotel he was staying in, right? So that took 5 days, but there was seemingly a lot of evidence in that case, because you could track him from point A to point B. He did disappear, but his face was shown everywhere, his actual face. So when he was spotted at the McDonald's in Pennsylvania, he was quickly detained, right? So I understand why that one is 5 days. Then we've got the killer from Idaho. 6 weeks it took. Think back now. Don't forget, we had that same feeling of frustration and doubt. What are they doing? Why haven't they caught him? And they were doing a lot behind the scenes. They were still asking for help in identifying the white Elantra, but they were doing genetic genealogy. They knew a lot more than they were letting on, and they were doing the work, but it took 6 weeks to get from the mass murders to the arrest. And once we saw what the case, how it was built, we kind of understood that. And that was a case that had similar resources that we're seeing here. The difference is the sensitivity of the cases, though, because everyone is hoping and praying that Nancy's alive. So time is so much more important, so much more of the essence. It's a kidnapping, and allegedly a kidnapping. But again, we don't even know if it is actually a kidnapping. Now I want to go in my time machine. Many of you might not remember this. I remember it because it was such a huge story when I was young. Patty Hearst, who was kidnapped. You may or may not realize what happened there. She ended up, you know, a lot of things happened. Much different story. She was younger and all. But it took 19 months to figure that one out, to finally find her, get her. She's the one that ended up getting arrested. Long story for another time, but she was the victim. But that one played out over the course of 19 months. That can't happen here. That just can't happen here. And hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully we're much closer than we think. But things are relatively quiet. We do, and this is good. Pima County Sheriff's Department is communicating. Even if they don't have a lot to add, at least they are like speaking and opening up to the public who is invested in this story and is also, many of them, tens of thousands of them, trying to help with tips that they've provided. So this is what we received late today from Pima County Sheriff's Department. Detectives and agents continue to actively follow up on leads. Neighbors have submitted surveillance video from the area, and investigators are carefully reviewing that footage. That takes time. DNA analysis is underway on biological evidence recovered during the investigation. This process can be lengthy. There's no additional information at this time. Again, that can be the genetic genealogy route, which can take much more time and sometimes leads to something, sometimes leads to nothing. Investigators continue seeking information to help identify the individual captured on doorbell surveillance video. As the sheriff has previously stated, while we are requesting information related to the person seen on video, investigators are not ruling out the possibility that more than one person may be involved. That would be helpful if it was more than one, I believe. More opportunity for someone to say something or do something. Now, there was buzz. Some of you may follow social media during the course of the day or watch some updates that are happening in different places. This was posted on X from Michael Ruiz. I believe he's associated with Fox. He reported that a private helicopter flew what appears to be a comprehensive grid pattern above the Los Reales landfill today, about 18 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home. While the flight path looks very much like a search pattern, PCSD says it has not been advised of a private helicopter assisting with this case. And that, again, may be connected to potentially what we saw from another helicopter, which was the sniffer that picks up those low energy, Bluetooth energy waves that are coming out from the pacemaker, which even if she's not alive, I believe the pacemaker continues to run until the battery runs out. So potentially you could be searching a landfill. You know, it would make sense. But here's the official word on that from the Pima County Sheriff. No, we cannot confirm that. We have not been advised of any aerial searches or a landfill associated with this investigation. So they're saying that's not happening. So we've got a couple things on the agenda here today, which is the time that it's taken and where we are relative to other cases. And we've got a potential search, not a search where they put on the hazmat suits and go through the landfill, but a helicopter doing a grid search over that landfill. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me tonight, criminal defense attorney Josh Colesrud. Also with us, former law enforcement officer, host of the Strong Enough podcast, Claudia King, and finally, entertainment host Holland Reed. Great to see everyone tonight. All right, let's start with the timing. Here we are, 3 weeks. Things seem to be getting a little bit more quiet right now. What should we be reading from that? What should we be feeling from that? What are you feeling from that tonight? Josh, why don't you start us off?
Okay, thank you. You know, I don't see any red flags about this whatsoever. I mean, right now is the middle stage of a missing persons investigation. You know, I kind of look at it like an iceberg where, you know, we can see, the public can see 30% of what's above the water, and then the rest of the investigation is the 70% that we don't see. This case is far from being a cold case. I mean, the FBI still has to go through all the data dumps from the family members. The FBI has not ruled out the family and is still looking into them. We also have to look at all of the 40 or 50,000 leads that have come in over the last few weeks. All of them need to be chased down, and that takes time. And if you remember the Brian Kohberger case, like you brought up in your monologue, you know, that was a case that was ultimately decided by genetic genealogy, right? And here, that's the next step. You know, there wasn't a match in CODIS, so the next step is doing the genetic genealogy, and that takes time. And again, in Brian Kohberger, it took about 6.5 weeks to identify him as the culprit.
All right, Claudia. Where are you tonight? What are you feeling?
I mean, I'm feeling more and more despair as the days go on, because it doesn't seem like we are getting new information. And this just feels different to me than the Kohberger case, when people were getting frustrated because they thought nothing was happening with the police. And behind the scenes, everything was happening, because it seems like they have been more open with us publicly in this case. And so the fact that they're not saying much now leads me to think maybe they don't have a lot of new things. The other thing that worries me, like with the genetic genealogy on this glove, we, the public, don't even know yet that this glove officially belongs to a suspect. It just appears to match one that the suspect was wearing. So we could spend all this time tracking down this person, and it could be a dead end.
Holland Reed, are you feeling optimistic? Are you feeling that perhaps this thing could go cold?
I feel both what you and Claudia and Josh have said. There's like a twofold to this. There's something deeper happening that we don't know. Again, as Josh said, we're only getting a certain percentage of what the FBI, I mean, this is Savannah Guthrie and her mother. She's got unlimited resources at her hands, which is more than most of, you know, the regular public would have in a case like this. So I feel like there's something deeper and something more happening. As far as the DNA and the glove situation, I think Josh had mentioned it in another segment. There's over 16 gloves. There's so many people, even in the community, that are so invested in this, like you said in your monologue as well, that are submitting their own information, that are going on the websites, checking their DNA channels in their own communities. So I think there's so much more information to be, unfolded. But at the same time, there's nothing, it seems like a very slow rollout to the public who is so invested. And that's where it seems kind of the despair that Claudia mentioned, which I can feel on both sides. I feel like it's not a cold case, but there's also so much that we just don't know because it is such a high profile case.
Now, something else about this case that I think some people are experiencing for the first time. Those of us in the world of true crime have been seeing it for a while. So there are a lot of folks in the world of true crime who do live streaming. And many of them live stream from home, part of the time. And then when a big story happens, they go there. They bring their cell phone, and then they take the viewer, they take the public there. But not the old-fashioned way that the news does it, where they go there and they give you a 2-minute report. They are rolling video and showing you in real time what is happening, whether it's 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours at a clip. Last Friday, I left this show. I was watching the man we're about to see into the middle of the night because things were happening. And he just kept rolling it and showing it to us. Jonathan Lee Riches is his name. He's known as JLR Investigates on YouTube. And he's been going live from Nancy Guthrie's home for weeks. Here's what he posted on X this morning from the scene.
It's her house here, lights on her home, empty. Media parked up the street. Does look like a little less media than what was here. Pima County Sheriff Deputy parked in the driveway. They've been doing that for weeks now.
And what's interesting here is that the media is starting to go away, is what he's saying. And the question that I have for you all is, we know the way the news cycle works with traditional media. You know, there could be another story that hits, and then all of a sudden, everybody shifts over there. It's been 3 weeks. We're not hearing much. Folks like JLR are going to stay on it. We're going to stay on it, obviously, as well. But the rest of the folks may soon disappear from here. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I'm going to go in the reverse order. Holland, I'll begin with you.
So I think from a perspective of clogging up the channels, it's a good thing, because the focus does need to be on, of course, the surrounding areas, the evidence, and all of that that's going on with the case. I think that she has, when I say she, her mother, Miss Guthrie, and Savannah and her family have so much attention and so many resources that the media itself, she is the media. So the coverage is going to be there whether there are cars outside or not. I mean, she's, you know, the Today Show anchor, for God's sakes. So I don't think the people that are just lined up need to be there, because she does have the coverage on a daily basis. But what I think that is going to happen is that we can eliminate some of the clogging of the channels of false information, of even the sleuths that are out there, or the people that are showing up trying to infiltrate and help and saying, we're going to go get Ms. Guthrie on her own as a tactic on social media, TikTok, whatever. I think that that's a good thing. Then it could clear the airways or the ways for the actual, the people with the credentials and the expertise to really, really do their job. And I don't think it's a bad thing that they're leaving. I think it's actually a good thing, because the media attention is already there.
I totally agree with you, Holland. I think it would be a good thing, because right now, with all the attention, and I know that people genuinely want to help, but it does clog up the system. And even, I think, the 911 system came out and said, please stop calling 911 with these like random thoughts that you're having about the case, because it's clogging up the system. I think the other thing that could be good if the media attention does die down a little bit is the suspect or suspects might get a little sloppy. They might start to relax, get some confidence and thinking that, yep, I've gotten away with this. And that might lead them to make some mistakes that will allow them to be caught. So I agree. I think it's a good thing if it does die down a little bit.
You know, Vinny, I'm taking the opposite view here. I think that the constant media pressure is a great thing. You know, there's only so much pressure somebody can take when they're trying to hide a secret. And I think that, you know, having been involved in these types of investigations, although not to this extent, is that you want that pressure. You want the media impact. You want the public to be constantly looking and asking for ideas about what's going on. You want this to be and to maintain its high profile situation, right? That it's, you know, one of the lead stories every single day. And, you know, one of the things that I like about this as an unintended benefit is that it's bringing everybody together. You know, it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. You know, we all want to see Nancy Guthrie come home safe, and we also want justice for the family.
Okay. Our think tank staying with us. We've got a lot to get to this hour. Big development in another big case that we've been tracking now for years, involving an OnlyFans model named Courtney Clenney. On OnlyFans, she had a different name, but her name inside the courtroom is Courtney Clenney, accused of killing her boyfriend. She was in court today, some bizarre behavior. We'll show you what happened. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan Investigates, Corey Richens was working at Home Depot when she met Eric Richens, a successful businessman in Utah. They fell in love, got married, and started a family with 3 little boys. But now Eric is dead and Corey is charged with murder. And the alleged murder weapon? A drink laced with poison. Can prosecutors prove the case? Tonight, we investigate.
In 2021, Dee Warner vanished without a trace.
Dale Warner. He's accused of murdering his wife, Dee. Rumors of a troubled marriage spread throughout this small community.
She had contemplated divorce several times.
Now, after years of searching for Dee Warner,
her remains are found on the couple's property,
sealed inside a welded shut storage tank.
we're still going to fight to the end to see that she gets her justice.
The hidden murder of Dee Warner. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
It's a story filled with glamour, passion, and ultimately devastating tragedy. Courtney Clenney, a social media star with millions of followers, lived in the shimmering heights of Miami's luxury lifestyle. By her side was cryptocurrency trader Christian Obumseli, a man described as vibrant, ambitious, and full of life. But behind the glossy images and curated posts, their relationship was marred by turbulence, arguments, and allegations of violence. In April of 2022, the glittering facade shattered when Christian was fatally stabbed in their high-rise apartment. Police arrived to a scene of chaos, blood, screams, and a life slipping away. Clenney claimed self-defense, saying she hurled a knife across the room, but prosecutors painted a darker portrait of manipulation and rage. The case captured the nation, not only because of the shocking nature, but because it exposed the fragility behind an image of perfection, leaving heartbreak and unanswered questions in its wake.
Okay, Courtney Clenney, OnlyFans model, stabbed her boyfriend, he died. Now, she may claim that she threw the knife. Anyhow, the knife's in her hand and it ends up in his body, in his chest, and he dies. So she's charged with his murder. When she first appeared in court, December 2022, I want to show you that. Take a look at her. All the glamour is gone. Like this is, like reality is checking in. You're not living in a $12,000 a month apartment in the trendiest neighborhood in Miami. You're not flying off to Vail. You're not going skiing. You're not taking pictures. You're not interacting with thousands of men who want to see you naked. No, you're in handcuffs, you're in court, and you may spend decades behind bars. And you wear the orange suit. Okay. That was in 2022. Let me show you 3.5 years later as she gets, what's going on here? She's acclimated, I guess, to being behind bars and is now, you are getting ready for your murder trial. And she's kind of waiting for her case to be called and must have recognized someone in the gallery and is, you know, blowing kisses, doing faces. It's almost like she's creating social media content from inside the courtroom. But really a strange twist today in a hearing that was very important involving some evidence that she wanted suppressed, not brought in. But I want to start first with what we're seeing inside the courtroom, because that's kind of the defendant we're going to see, not in the orange. She'll have regular clothes on during her trial. Let's bring back in our think tank, Josh Colesrud, Claudia King, Holland Reed, all with us. Holland, what do you think of the new Courtney Clenney?
Well, Vinny, let me tell you something. I'm going to say this because I am no stranger to being animated or being off or behavior dependent upon things that are going on in personal life or what have you. And I can say that that's one thing to have a very big, strong personality. It's another thing for you to be in the courtroom and for your life and your freedom to be dependent on how you behave. And so while we might be on court TV and there are good days and bad days and life happens and what have you, this is someone that is in the courtroom and the jury is going to decide what her behavior means, how they're going to interpret that, what she is getting at with these, you know, the kisses and the what have you, that she's not taking this seriously, that this is something that is just it's a game for her, as you said, a content play for her. So as someone that is extremely animated and kind of, you know, an open book, this does not work in the courtroom, unfortunately, for her.
Josh, what do you think's going on here?
going on here?
I think that this is typical cavalier attitude from somebody who thinks that they're not going to be found guilty. She seems flippant and that she's not taking this seriously, like Holland said. And, you know, it's going to come back to bite her. You know, potential jurors could be looking at this, and the prosecution is going to frame her as somebody who's erratic, as somebody who is impulsive, and somebody who's selfish, you know, somebody who looks like a person that's acting just like this. And the defense, they want to frame her as somebody who's fragile, right? Somebody who's a victim of domestic violence, somebody who's meek, somebody who lacks confidence. And the person in the courtroom today, who we just saw, doesn't reflect that. And they have a huge uphill battle with their client to prepare her for trial.
Claudia, there's another part of what happened today. So today was the suppression hearing. There were a bunch of recordings that Christian Obumseli made on his phone. Some of them were kept out of evidence. Some were allowed in. The ones that were kept out were the recordings where it's just him and Courtney together. The ones that are allowed in is when they're in public, but he's secretly recording things that are happening, episodes. I want to play one of them for you. I believe this one will not be in front of the jury, but we're not sure because they weren't playing them in court. But this gives us an idea of the nature of some of these recordings and what Christian is deciding to secretly record. Let's take a listen.
Don't touch me!
What is going on? Like, what are you going to get this mad at me when I'm apologizing to you?
No, Christian.
Like, you're thinking I'm doing it on
purpose. Drop your attitude. Drop your high pitch.
Okay, I'm not doing it on purpose.
You touched Zara. You know well the right thing to do is to tell me.
Yes, and I am so sorry.
So shut up and let me slap you.
You're not going to slap me.
Give me my phone.
You have your phone.
I don't have it anymore. Find it and charge it.
What?
Here's what I want to figure out here. Why do we think that Christian Obumseli is making these secret recordings? I have two choices. Neither one may be correct. I'm wondering if he's doing it to protect himself, if in case police come and she points the finger at him, or is he recording that to perhaps confront her or to show her when she's not in this manic state, to say, listen to what you are doing here. What are your thoughts here?
I think it's sort of option C, and I think he is a victim of domestic violence. And I think he began to make these recordings to have a record of how he was being treated and what she was doing to him, so that if things got worse, which unfortunately they got worse to the point where these couldn't be used to help him survive, but I think he wanted to have them as proof of who she was and what she was doing, so that if it came to a situation where he had to get a protection order or something else, he would have this information, because he knows that in looking at the dynamics of their relationship, it's going to be more difficult that people will believe he is the victim, because she is this cute, pretty little girl and he's the big guy. And it's very difficult for people to believe that men can be victims of domestic abuse. So I think he was trying to get those recordings so that he would have the evidence he needed to show that he was the victim.
And I just want to jump in here also, because I have these similar recordings with past abuse relationships as well. And the power dynamic is always looked at. And I hate to bring race into this, but I'm going to, for the sake of this is what happens in our society. You have a very beautiful white woman that is now accusing a bigger black man in a situation where it could very easily be deemed that he is the aggressor. But we're looking at a video where she is equally as toxic. Was their relationship toxic? Probably yes. And that happens all the time, whether it's in a same-sex relationship where people don't believe either one, or a interracial relationship. This is something that happens on a regular basis, where if you don't have those recordings and those elevator videos, people are often really, they go to the belief system and what society tells us to believe. And I'm really glad that this is on camera and also on audio so that it can show another power dynamic that it was not told before.
Yeah, if you had to be guessing about what type of personality that this defendant has, it's abundantly clear about who she is. And thank God the victim recorded this. I mean, he really helped his case. Unfortunately, he's not here. However, because of that surreptitious recording, we can see what she was like behind the curtain. And she's not the person that the defense is claiming that she is, that some meek, helpless person. No, men can be victims of domestic violence too. And it's abundantly obvious that she was abusing him both mentally and physically.
All right. We're getting closer and closer to that trial. It's been 4 years already. She served about 3.5 years behind bars already, and she hasn't had the trial yet. Think tanks staying where they are. When we come back, a trial you're watching on Court TV. A father and son. One of them's on trial for a school shooting. And it's not the son, it's the father, even though the son is the accused shooter. The latest next.
Was there a second search after the word abuse?
Yes. It was how to kill your dad.
When you were talking to Colin Gray, did he mention anything to you about 2 years before the police coming to his house?
No.
Okay. Did he mention anything about Colt searching how to kill your dad on the computer?
No.
Colt Gray is a disturbed young man, allegedly, right? Searching how to kill your dad. The video you're looking at right here, body cam video, 16 months before a school shooting, where he's been accused of making threats on Discord, a social media app, and police confront him and his dad, but he denies it. Dad's pretty casual about it, as you can see. And police were pretty casual about it as well, to be honest with you. And 16 months later, there's a school shooting. Colt Gray, accused of murdering 4, wounding 7 others. Where'd he get the gun? He got the gun from his father. Buying a gun for your son in Georgia, not illegal. That was not illegal. But now prosecutors say because he purchased that gun and because he knew about his son and his mental issues and his prior alleged threats, that he's responsible for murder. Let's take a look at what happened in the courtroom today.
This is one of my overalls of the doorway of Colin's room.
And did he appear to also share that with his youngest son, Coley?
It appeared that way, yes. Another overall of that same bedroom as I'm making my way around the room. This is an overall of a pair of swim goggles that I located in that bedroom. And inside the goggles, you can see what was identified as 1 bore sight and 1 rifle cartridge.
And it's kind of hard to see in this picture, and we'll see clearer, but what are those boxes that we're seeing?
Various ammunition boxes.
Okay.
These were overalls of some firearms that were located in that closet after I removed the clothing that was covering them.
Okay. Were there 2 firearms up there?
Yes, there were.
Okay.
This is a overall photograph of a box of handgun ammunition that was in the top of the closet.
I do want to ask you, those firearms at the top of the closet, what were those 2 firearms?
One of them was a shotgun and the other was a rifle.
Tell us what we're looking at here and from where.
This is one of my overalls of Colt's room. In this perspective, I'm standing in the doorway and I'm facing generally the west wall.
So this is 145.96. Tell us what we see here.
This is an overall photograph of the west wall. You can partially see the desk and you can also see some things affixed to the wall. This is a close-up of some of the photographs that were lower down on the wall and difficult to see from farther away. This is an overall of a black and color rifle sling and a tan soft rifle case that were located in that closet. They were both folded over the bar that's used to hang clothing from. This is a photograph of the rifle case after I opened it, just to show that there was nothing inside of it. You can see the same desk that we discussed earlier, as well as a series of photographs and articles that were affixed to his wall.
Are all the photos in this all of the same person?
They appear to be, yes.
And are all the news articles here related to that same person?
Yes, ma'am.
Specifically, I'm looking at a photo kind of down on the bottom right corner, and you can see it in the photo in front of you as well. That tactical vest that this individual is wearing, is that a similar vest to the one that you recovered from the laundry room?
Yes, ma'am. Obviously, the color is different, but the style is generally the same.
And who is this individual?
This individual is Nicholas Cruz.
And what is the significance of Nicholas Cruz?
Nicholas Cruz perpetrated a mass shooting event at Parkland High School in Florida on February 14th of 2018. During that incident, there were 17 people killed, including teachers and students.
After Marcy has duct taped you and stole your car, stole your money, and she's in jail. Okay. Do you go visit the kids in Winder with Colin around Christmas time?
I went the day after Christmas, I think.
Who stayed in Father's room?
He and little Coley.
Okay, so Colin Gray and little Cole both stayed in that room. Okay. Did Cole talk to you about a Christmas present he had gotten?
Sure.
Okay, and what was that Christmas present?
It was a gun.
Okay, and was it a rifle?
Yes.
Who did you get the Christmas present from?
From his dad.
Where was the gun kept at that time?
I honestly don't know. He came out into the living area with it and went back down the hall, but I didn't follow him, so I don't know if it was in his room or in Coley's room at that time.
You were the next witness, and you weren't here when they were ready to call you.
Yes, sir.
So there's something. So we sent the jury home and bring them back Monday morning. You would be the first witness Monday morning.
Yes, sir.
There's some concern about you appearing. You don't want to be held in contempt for not coming. You don't want deputies to be sent out to find you.
Oh, no.
You don't want to be put in jail for contempt.
I'll be here on Sunday.
All right.
All right, Josh, Claudia, and Holland still with us. All right, Claudia King, he didn't want anyone to die. He didn't intend for anyone to die. When he bought the gun, he didn't intend his son to use it as a school shooter. So those facts are pretty clear. We're in brand new territory here, which is criminally prosecuting someone for murder for the actions that someone else committed, his son. Are you comfortable with where prosecutors are in all of this? Because this is like new ground that we're breaking through. We had the Crumbly case in Michigan. This one, I think, takes it up to the next level. What are your thoughts?
I'm perfectly comfortable with where we are taking this because I think parents have to start taking responsibility for what is going on in their homes and what their children are doing and their mental wellness, because that is a huge issue in this particular case, is that it seems like there were a lot of clues and a lot of signs that Colt Gray had mental health issues, and nobody did anything to try to help him, and to take it a step further, bought him a gun and gave it to him. And I just don't think Dad can say, I didn't know what was going on, because he's got a little shrine to a school shooter sitting above his desk in his room. So I think this is where we have to go, because parents have to start taking responsibility for what is going on in their homes.
Yeah, Josh, jump in there.
You know, this father is certainly guilty of a lot of things, but felony murder is not among that. Now, let me tell you where I'm coming from. You know, the state has to prove all 29 counts that the father here had specific and actionable notice that he could foresee that this would be the result. And one of the things that the grandmother didn't testify to today was the most recent threat in September, about 3 weeks before the murders. That was that Colt said that he wanted to kill all of the adults. And the grandmother didn't tell the father that. She didn't she forgot to mention it to him. So like the most recent threat, the most actionable threat wasn't even told to the father. And so let's look at the Crumbly case in Michigan, because in Michigan, the warnings were immediate, they were explicit, and delivered directly to the parents hours before the shooting. There were violent drawings, a meeting at the school. There was so much there. And here, you just have a generalization. And now he's charged with 29 counts of murder. Now, this is setting the stage for parents to get charged with homicides whenever their kids do something wrong.
I'm just going to say, as a mother, first and foremost, like Claudia said, it's my responsibility to set the tone for what my child has access to. I never let my son have a gun of any kind. That's just my prerogative. Not a water gun, not anything, because I did not want him to feel comfortable in that kind of environment at all, regardless, whether it was a real gun, a water gun, a fake gun, a toy gun, what have you. So moving forward now with the situation like this, you knew your child had issues. You saw the writing literally on the wall in his room with his paraphernalia and what have you, and you put the weapon in his hand. While I'm not sure about the legal charges like Josh just mentioned, you still are a co-conspirator in this act. You are absolutely responsible. You put the weapon in the hand of the enemy, so to speak. And had it not been for that, this act might have not taken place. So I absolutely do believe that these charges should stand, what maybe not to the severity of what you were saying, but he is absolutely, it starts with in the home, and then you can go from there depending on what the child does on their own, but you don't enable them to do so.
All right. Big thanks tonight. Great job, everyone. Josh Colesrud, Claudia King, Holland Reed. We'll see you again really soon. When we come back, folks, time to reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, did Corey Richins poison her husband, Eric? Did she take the life of the father of her 3 little boys? And did she try to get her family to lie for her at her trial? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Corey, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder. He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief? The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage begins Monday morning, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know today. Let's take a look at the big board. In the courtroom, who was that? Lindsay Clancy appeared for the first time since her arrest inside a courtroom. But if you look at her, they have to wheel her in. That's because after she allegedly strangled her 3 children, she threw herself out of a window in an attempt to take her own life. It was a 2nd-story window. Now, she's pleaded not guilty, expected to pursue an insanity defense for the murder of her children. But today, inside the courtroom, for the first time, she'd appeared by Zoom previously. This is an incredibly tragic case, but there is a mental disease or defect that may have been caused by the medications. That's what the defense is going to allege. This will be a very emotional trial. Take a look at your screens. We have another missing child tonight who needs your help. This is Brenche Nige Bethune, just 17 years old, missing out of Jackson, Mississippi. If you see Brenche, please pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. Maybe in the local area, could be in Flora, Mississippi. Also goes by the name Shay. Let's see if we can get Shay to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.